If you can love another being, why can you not love yourself that same? Give yourself that compassion. Give yourself, dig into that, sit with that, contemplate that, find out what happened to you that led you to feel that way.
Alright, hello guys. I'm in Thailand, Bangkok, in Comfy Hostel, which is my fifth or fourth hostel. In the morning, I checked in and I was just staying there, sitting. Devin and his friends was speaking about really deep things. The conversation was so great. He really impressed me, and I asked him if we can talk about these things in video too, because I'm shooting content. And he said, yes, why not? Let's do it. And we just arranged it. And now we will speak about some thoughts of us. And we will see if you guys agree with us, if not. But we just wanted to share this conversation with you guys because these things are so important in life. Right, Devin?
Yeah, definitely. It seems, they had asked me a few questions, and somehow we got into the topic of like, what is truth? And how do we approach truth in a way that allows it to be understood? And I believe it started with the topic of death, and like what would be a good way to die. And the guy I was speaking with, was under the assumption that to know you're dying would be nice. And I've always thought, like, seems like it'd be nice to die just suddenly while you're in a good mood. And then we transitioned into the conversation of, okay, so there's dying, how to die, but what happens after death? And I think that's when you came in and you started hearing what we were talking about.
Definitely.
And so what happens after death is something we may never truly know, but there are many stories of people who have died and come back to life.
Exactly.
And these people, they see usually some sort of a light, or they feel that there is, on some level, as varied as their experiences are, that their consciousness lives on, their awareness moves on, out separate from the body, and that it does not end in nothingness. And I find that that's interesting because it aligns well with what is believed by any and all spiritual traditions in the world, as well as anybody who's had these near-death experiences. They all can agree on one thing, and that is that whatever happens after death, it's not the end for our awareness, our soul. There's different words and ways to perceive what that is, but ultimately, they all agree something happens. And, it's interesting, like with these deeper truths of the universe, there's so many ways that it can be interpreted. There's so many veils of interpretation by which you can perceive the very same truth. And, one person could come at it from one way, another could describe it in completely different language from a completely different perspective, but ultimately be talking about the same thing. And whether or not they realize that they're talking about the same thing can be the start of a war, or it can bring about the end of war. Throughout history, these religious disagreements have led to more deaths than any other cause. More people have had died in the name of God than for any other reason.
Yeah, for nothing.
But yeah, for nothing, for a difference of opinion on the way to interpret what is essentially the seeking of truth.
Yeah.
And so I like how you were saying having an open mind. We know nothing.
Yeah.
We really should try our best to perceive open-mindedly what is truth, what can be understood. And I like how you brought it into science. It gives us a measurement of whatever it is that we're trying to understand. It gives us a way to quantify it, a way to break it down into understandable parts. But then something is lost when you do that. When you try to take the whole image and break it down into something quantifiable, you lose the bigger picture.
Exactly.
You lose the image of the whole.
Yeah.
And that's a problem we see in Western medicine. The doctors can be an absolute specialist of your heart, but they know nothing about its connection with the brain. And yet someone else can be a specialist of the gut and they know very little or nothing about the heart. But all these organs are part of one very interconnected body.
Definitely.
And in this way,
There's a huge connection there.
yeah, yeah, there's such a deep connection in our own body. But then there's like these hermetic principles. They say, as above, so below, as within, so without. And so what I gather from that is the internal world is reflected in the external world, and the external world can be reflected in our internal world. And it's interesting because there have been studies done where they take a group of people that are trained in meditating on inner peace, and they space them out throughout a city, and they have them all meditate at the same time to deeply enter a space of inner peace. And during the time that they are doing this, they notice that the 911 calls are reduced, the amount of crime is reduced, the amount of accidents even.
Yeah, it
Comes
really
down.
affects.
Yeah, it's amazing to think, something that's someone's doing internally could have such a strong effect on the external world. And things like that are hard to measure separate from just statistical analysis. Another thing that they've tested where the only real evidence is like statistical analysis is having soldiers in hospital beds that are being prayed for, and there's soldiers that are not being prayed for.
Yeah.
And the soldiers being prayed for heal faster, and they get out of the hospital faster. They have less infections. They end up making a more complete recovery more often than not. And this is a hard thing to explain when you separate each individual aspect of the greater truth. For example, with quantum mechanics, they will tell us that in order to quantum entangle two particles, they must make them occupy the same space at the same point in time, which is like creating a very small point space. But then they'll also tell us that the beginning of the universe was a point space, and then from that point space was the Big Bang, and everything expanded outwards, and as it separated, it formed the laws of physics. This energy like cooled down, became matter, became the stars, the nebula, everything that we now have came from this point space.
Yeah.
But
Sorry to cut here, but there's a lot of theories about the starting of the universe. So, but the most believed one is the Big Bang. So, what do you think about these, all of them, the old theories? You also believe in the Big Bang, or what do you think about this?
I do, because I believe that the Big Bang is a scientific way of explaining that everything is connected.
Yeah,
Everything
or
comes
just
from
like
one
gas
source.
cloud or something. Which one is the best one, right? The best option is Big Bang, huh?
I think for a few reasons. One being that it gives us a basis from which to scientifically understand that everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond that, on a deeper level, it's something I have experienced through deep breath work and meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel like with each breath, the contraction and expansion, and I could feel the universe like as if I was the universe. The like space of nothingness that then contracts into a point space that then expands outwards infinitely, but then in its expansion it continues and continues until everything is becomes so expanded that it becomes indistinguishable from nothingness. All matter breaks down so small, gets so separate from itself that it becomes indistinguishable. It becomes energy, and that energy is all pervading in an infinite amount of space that it becomes indistinguishable from nothingness. And then comes a point in an indefinite amount of time later where due to like the quantum principles of how particles work, there's a chance that they all exist in the same spot at the same moment of time. And when that happens, that would create the point space that would then birth the universe. And so this could repeat itself as a cycle.
Yeah.
And all things in life unfold in cycles. And so through this, I think that there is, like, we can see like the Fibonacci sequence. It shows itself in the development of an embryo. It shows itself in the development of a tree. It shows itself in the unfolding of a lightning bolt.
You see the same patterns in the universe, right?
Yeah. And I think that by following these patterns and understanding them, we can reach a deeper level of understanding of the world we live in.
Of course. Yeah. So you wanna tell us about yourself a little bit? What did you do till now, and do you have something to say to the world? If you have just one sentence that you can share with whole world, what would it be? What do you think you can say?
The purpose of life, the reason for all of this to be the way it is so that we can truly learn to love ourselves, each other, our world, our universe, so that we can truly learn and experience and expand our understanding of this thing that we call love, and to reach a pure version of that in our expression to the external world and in our internal world as well.
Amazing. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
He's really so deep. That's why I wanted to interview with him, because he's not just a guy. He's a guy who really has deep connection with himself inside and at the outside. And he really thinks about his life and himself, you know, because in life we always going in the flow, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes even we don't realize what we are doing, you know. For example, I just did my hand like this and it was just reflex. I didn't say to my brain to move it like that, you know. It's just reflex.
Yeah.
So the living of life is just same as that reflex. It's become that.
Yeah.
It became this. But before there is no that much, there was not that much thing that distract us from the world, separate us from the world, you know.
Yeah.
So we were like more connected to each other and more connected to our intrusive thoughts, you know. We were listening to ourselves. But now there's so many things that distracting us from the world, so we stop thinking about ourselves, right? Now we just focus on living, focus on earning money, focus on getting titles, job, anything, focus on trying to make people love us, like us, you know, anything like this.
It's so true.
Yeah, but life is not like this, right? We forget to being connected with our intrusive thoughts, our real human being, you know. So in this flow of life, that's really so important that he has this self-awareness, because most of the people doesn't have this. So I really appreciate it, Devin. And yeah, can you talk about yourself a little bit? What did you study and where you're from?
Yeah, thank you. I found at a young age I was passionate to study natural ways of living. I started with being interested in like surviving in the woods and how to like live a natural life in that manner.
Really?
And then I really became very passionate about science and did a lot of research into different concepts of physics and biology.
We love science.
And then I discovered spirituality. I heard about energy healing, and I thought how amazing this is. And my mom had an experience where she was healed by a shaman. And she connected me with this shaman. He was of the Lakota tribe, and I was able to study under him for several years. And I learned their teachings, their ways of thinking and perceiving the world. And then I discovered psychedelics, and I had a deep spiritual awakening within myself. And I realized that I am one with the universe. And as such, I am one with all things, all people. I heard about this thing called the egg theory.
The egg theory.
Yes. And it's a very fascinating video you can find on YouTube. And it's a short story, really. But
As you can check it out too if you wanna learn about it. Just check it out and watch this video.
it is, yeah. I highly recommend it. But to summarize, it's like if you, for a second, think that you reincarnate into anyone who's ever lived or will ever live, then there's a chance that you meet yourself, another incarnation of yourself. And with each life only aware of its own lifespan, its own goals, its own dreams, its own ambitions, you don't even know what's happening. But if I was to be mean to you, then I'm really only hurting myself. But if I'm to be nice to you, then I'm really only helping myself. And so for the level of selfishness that people are trained and raised to think in and act from, a belief like that would really bring about world peace. But it seems so natural. Like, why should I be nice to you just to help myself because I think I'm you? Like, why is it not enough to just be nice to you because being nice to you is the right thing to do?
Yeah.
I think connecting it to something personal requires a degree of self-love. And so many people lack a degree of self-love, and yet they go around trying to love their partner, trying to love their pets, trying to love the world, trying to love their own life, but then they don't even love themselves because they don't know who they are. They
How
don't.
can you love something if you don't love yourself, right?
Yeah. If you don't love yourself, how can you love another?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will argue with that. But I say, if you are not happy, how can you share your happiness with me?
But what is love actually?
What is love? In a grand sense, love is the opposite of fear. Love is acceptance. Love is gratitude. Love is compassion. And the opposite of love is fear. Fear breeds anger. Fear will lead to self-destruction and the willingness to destroy another. Whereas
Yeah.
love
So
is
sense.
helping a stranger.
Yeah.
Love is giving something because you can.
Yeah.
And with that is an understanding that you are only lacking what you are not giving, because lack is a belief in fear. The
But
belief
this
in
is so great. You said love is giving something because you can,
yeah.
right? That's so deep.
It's to give freely. It's the highest expression of freedom.
Exactly.
It's the highest expression of the human soul to want to enrich others, to live authentically and with integrity. And you can only do that when you're not in fear. Because why do people lie? Is because they fear.
Exactly.
Why would you, not keep your integrity, your authenticity? You limit your own authenticity because of fear and because of these patterns that we're raised with. Because from 0 to 7 to even 30, your brain is observing the patterns of the world, the way you act, and then the way you get treated because of that action. And it changes and it learns a way to interact with the world that is not authentic to yourself. You are a child, you are joyful, you're screaming with joy. You're told, stop it, you're being too loud. You're rolling around on the ground having so much fun, you're told, stop it, you'll get dirty. So you limit your expression. You don't play. You don't shout with joy.
You don't experience, right? You don't see things. How can you learn if you don't experience anything? if someone restricting you from an experiment, then it's being more destroying than being helpful, you know,
Yeah.
because you need to let someone to just experience. Of course, we don't have enough time to experience everything. So that's why we learning from the elders. That's why we learning from the professionals. That's why we have mentors. But in much things, you should just let yourself to experience, right?
Absolutely.
For example, this evening I just experienced my first fine dining, you know, and just sometimes just try to reward yourself, right? Living the life in the tough times, you know, these are the really tough times. So it's really important to having experiences because you only live once, right? You just experience once. So you should do whatever you can and you should live your life in the deepest version of yourself, right?
Yeah, be authentic to yourself. You only live in this body once, and that much we can know, right? But the thing is, a lot of people can use that as an excuse. This whole you only live once, YOLO, I'm gonna go shoot up heroin or something, right? Like, don't abuse your body. Your body is the temple, the vessel with which you are able to experience the world. If you pollute it so heavily, then you will shorten the span of time in which you can have a healthy, happy, pain free, joyful, youthful body. And in so doing, you are really hurting yourself more than you are gaining. But yes, go have some fine dining, treat yourself, give yourself the experience that you'd want to give another. That's something anyone who becomes a parent learns, right? Is the joy of giving a gift to their child. How beautiful it would be if we could truly all treat each other as if we were family. If I could give to you as freely as I would give to my child, to my brother, to
Of
my
course.
mother, to my father, to someone that I truly love. If we could treat each other from that level of compassion, then
Yeah,
we would have such a better world.
definitely. It's the point, right? There's just one world.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's other places, other planets in the universe, but exactly, we just know about world, and we are human beings, and there's animals too, and we just sharing the world. But the only thing we can do is just living the life in a good situation, right? Just be peaceful, love each other, learn, communicate, do something good for yourself, do something good for themselves,
Yeah.
and just live everything,
Yeah.
right? Just live the life.
Yeah. And treat the world as you would want to be treated. They say treat others as you want to be treated, this golden
Yeah,
rule. It's the same as in the Bible. They say, like, treat your brother as you treat your neighbor as you would treat your brother, and love God with all your heart, love the universe, love the world you're on. The every culture, every religion, every spiritual teaching, they share these concepts. Like, don't make judgments upon others, don't make assumptions, be impeccable with your word, live from a space of authenticity. And when you are doing that, you will seek naturally to enrich others. Don't pollute the world with your trash, with your, give give back to that which gives to you. We rise by lifting others, and we live on a planet that is a self-sufficient and infinitely abundant garden that just needs to be tended. The amount of energy that we receive from the food we eat is more than enough to replant the seed and still go on to do other things. If we live in harmony with the natural cycles that our planet has given us, that this universe has given us, if we take this gift of life and we live and experience and share that experience. We want to be able to share that experience with our children, with our children's children. We want to be able to have, this beautiful world. Then we need to take care of the world as well as we would take care of ourselves.
of course, because we're living inside it, and also we're living inside our bodies too.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You should just take care of your environment so you can live as you want, right? And also, I want to tell you something that most of the time I'm having this situation, you know. I want to tell you about that. Sometimes it doesn't matter the place, it doesn't matter the situation. Sometimes it's just coming to my mind that this awareness, which is make me feel so weird, you know. I'm feeling like I'm just excluded from the world and I'm on the top of the world and I'm looking as a flying bird, you know, and I'm saying, okay, there's a thing called human being. There's a thing called world. There's a thing called life.
Yeah.
And it's so weird that we just exist. Even that is so impressing, right?
Yeah.
There's a thing that can move, can talk, and can create things
Yeah.
that can communicate, you know. For example, even this is so easy, right? So basic.
Yeah.
But the people coming from the caves started to create things they can put on themselves. They started to create things so they can get on them and travel the world. And even they created planes, and now we can travel whole world, you know, all around the world. Isn't it so impressive that we went that much road, you know? It's so impressive, it's so weird.
Amazing.
Just being in the life and just living. It's even itself, it's really impressing, right? Sometimes I'm just talking about this and then this comes to my mind. Yeah, I will die one day. So what happens next?
Yeah.
We can never think about it. We don't know about it and we can never be sure about it, right?
Right.
But it just comes to our mind because maybe we've afraid of, or maybe we just wonder how it goes, you know. We can't know about it, but we wonder because people are so weak that can understand these things, right? So we need evidence, or we need something that our brain can be capable of, you know. So sometimes I'm just separating myself from the world and thinking, oh really, we are existing. Oh really, there's a Recep living in life, you know. And I have a family, people are walking, see there's a TV, there's a light, you know, we created these things. It's coming so weird to me because of that self-awareness.
It
What do you think
is.
about this?
I agree. It's so fascinating. I mean, like to us, you're here talking to a human. To them, they're looking at a screen, watching pixels move, and vibrations of a speaker are creating sounds, ripples in the air that they perceive as sounds.
They can see us from maybe the opposite side of the world at the same time. We can make it live, you know, and just seconds they can see us here. They can connect with us, you know. It's so impressive.
It's amazing. I mean, to think, yeah, from a caveman coming out into the world and picking berries to weaving a cloth with such fine threads.
Exactly.
It's amazing. It takes generations of progress.
Definitely. Millions of years, millions of years.
Yeah, and you know, it's so beautiful to see all these different aspects of creation, right? The world allows for so much variety of creation, as well as so much like variety of experience. So something you said that I found really interesting
Yeah.
is how you're connecting with like the cavemen and they come out and like then they had their thoughts about death, and now we have our thoughts about death and how different they must be, because we have all these stories from all these different religions and spiritual traditions that tell us, oh, this is what happens, and oh, this is what happens. But now we have this really unique thing with like the way they can see us now. We can hear stories from people who have died and come back. And so we can ask them, what happened while you were on the other side? And all of them, they experience something. Like if your heart stops, but they bring you back with they shock you back.
Oh yes, yeah. So that's the thing.
You
I
can
was
be
thinking,
gone long enough that you have an experience.
Yeah.
And that experience, I'm sure to be the one experiencing it, that changes you forever. But now we can listen to their story, and we can see there's an archetype that is shared between all of their experiences, that there is something more than nothing.
Of course.
And there's something beautiful about that, to know that this isn't necessarily the end. There's something frightening about that too, because how peaceful nothingness might be. But to know that there is more to it, it makes you want to live a good life here now, because you don't know what is to come. And so you want to make the most of the present moment. You want to, to share all of the amazing things that you can with those around you. You want to have all of these wonderful experiences, right? That's why we travel, to see the world, to really get to know what's out there, to expand our horizons, to see things from many perspectives. And in life, there's a personal journey. We all seek truth. We seek to grow and become a better version of ourselves, to learn. And those of us that are on that path, that are seeking, to know that there is always more, but that it is always a rewarding journey. The more you learn, the more you grow, you will never have any regrets, so long as you seek the truth with pure intentions to grow, to share, to enrich others. What is there to regret?
Yeah, of course. So where were you from?
A place called Mount Shasta.
Mount
Shasta.
the top of the Colombia.
It's the top of California.
California, all right, yeah.
It's
California.
It is. It's a beautiful place. It's known as the root chakra of planet Earth, and it draws in many spiritual seekers and many people who have great wisdom. You were saying about the mind, how it goes on. I met a guy there. He would talk about how we always need to watch our mind, the monkey mind. It's always playing tricks on us. It connects, like it's a thing the Buddhists say, and it connects with like Stoicism. They say you can only control your perception of the things that happen to you. You may not be able to control, like all of a sudden that TV falls on you, right? You can't control that, but you can control your reaction to it.
Yeah.
And likewise, like the Bible, they say, take every thought captive. The Taoists, they say, the mind can be full of tricks and lies and all these stories, but the knowing that hears the mind, that's what you really are. And it's interesting to me, these shared archetypes of truth through all these different spiritual traditions, so many different ways and perspectives of looking at the same truth. There's so many different ways you could describe it through so many different words, and people will get a different understanding depending on how you describe that same truth. And I believe that it's necessary to understand the truth from many points of view in order to get a deeper understanding of the picture, a deeper understanding of the truth, because there are so many roads that lead to the truth. There's like so many rivers on earth that lead to the ocean. There's so many spiritual paths people can take to get closer to God, closer to truth, closer to love, closer to peace. And I don't think there's any wrong path, so long as the path you follow is seeking to enrich others, to love others, to seek open-mindedly, not to close yourself off to other paths that may lead you to truth.
Yeah, appreciate it. So I have two questions. What do you think truth is? Because can we find real truth for everyone? So the truth is general, or it depends on the people? And the second is, I want to talk about religions. I don't want you to say your religion because maybe it can be offended by any people. We don't want this. But what are your thoughts about religions, and is it really matters for a person to being Christian, Muslim, or something, or is it the thing that makes him human being? It's just what only matters, so we can love them. It doesn't matter the religion. So, what do you think about this?
We should love everyone, no matter what they believe. We should be open to many ways of thinking. We should understand that some people, they only want so much truth. They only need so much truth. I know many good Christians, many people who are happy as Buddhist, many people who are happy as Taoist. I know several shamans that are very content in what they believe. And I believe that any spiritual path that you choose to take can lead you to truth, can lead you to God, can lead you to peace. Any spiritual path. All religions are a different form of a spiritual path, but a religion is also full of dogma. And I may offend many people in saying this, but I do believe that the source of the religion, the teacher, I'll use Christianity because it's an example I'm most familiar with. The teachings of Jesus are beautiful. Love one another. Love God with all your heart. Who could argue that?
Just good things, right?
Be a good person. Don't murder people.
Don't steal.
Don't steal.
Don't drink.
Yeah. Don't covet to steal from your neighbor, right? Just love one another.
Just things that hurt you or anyone.
Don't abuse yourself. Don't abuse another. Yeah. Don't interfere with the sovereign consciousness that is another being in a way that takes away from their enrichment of life. And I think that to the extent that religions limit people from seeking deeper truth and demonize other ways of thinking, I think that this is bad. I think that to demonize a way of thinking stops people from accepting it and creates division in the world and can create hatred and fear. And fear is a root of all evil, as is greed the root of all evil. Because fear leads to greed, which leads to all suffering on earth. And so, but your other question, is truth individual, or is there a general truth? Anybody who has taken a sufficient vision quest, a meditative dose of psychedelics, or had a near-death experience, they will tell you that it is beyond words. You truly cannot put into words this experience. And that level of truth is to some degree individual, because it's what you perceive, the way that you perceive that experience is going to be unique to you, because it's going to be based on your entire life's context for what you just experienced. And your mind's veil of interpretation for how you perceive reality, everything from the moment of your conception to the moment of right now that you've ever heard, seen, felt, done, or otherwise experienced has made you who you are, combined with the veil of interpretation. So that's the veil of interpretation that is your mind. There's also the veil of interpretation that is your body, which can include any physical ailments, your appearance, your physique, your skin color, your eye color, but it can also be, there's something deeper. There is some level at which, right, this nurture versus nature, there is some amount of your nature, the spirit within you, And I believe that is where there is some merits to the beliefs in past life or reincarnation, or like some level of like where your spirit is on this journey of evolving to be the highest version of itself. And I think that everything that is like there, like all things can be true on some level that is like that has any degree of truth to it. And so also there is a way of misperceiving that can lead to delusion. I could tell you that you should be loving to everyone, and that is true on the level that I mean it. But if you perceive it on the level of I'm going to go around and kiss everyone and try to sleep with everyone, that's not what I meant at all. But what does the word love mean to you, right? What does
Of course.
everyone mean to you? Maybe, if I was to say that to Hitler, maybe he says, I'm still going to go kill all the Jews, but now I'm going to make sure I really go hug all my Nazi brothers or something, right? Or, if I say love everyone, you're loving to every human on earth, but then you go and you stomp on a cockroach. Or maybe when I said everyone, maybe I meant all sentient beings. And now, because to me, that's everyone. But then to you, everyone just means all people. Or, maybe, there's so many ways to interpret any level of truth. And these are extreme examples, but it gets very subtle because through language, each word that I say has a meaning to you that is based on your life's contextual experience for that word beyond its dictionary definition.
Yeah.
And that will affect how you perceive what I say, as will whatever other assumptions you make about me, as will whatever state of being you are in, whether you are drunk, tired, happy, sad. All these things will affect how you hear and perceive what I say.
Yeah, of course. Actually, I have a lot of things to say, but my English not that perfect, so I'm just skipping it because you're doing it so well actually already. Actually, I don't need to speak even. But I want to say, how can we be good in life? Just that simple. How can we live the life and be good? What do you think?
That is an interesting question, and it's a really hard question to answer. How can we be good in life? How
What is good?
How to be a good person? What is good, right? How can we be good in
How can we
life?
say something is good and something is bad? What is bad? What is good? And who decide this?
Right.
Yeah.
That is a great example of a level on which truth becomes a very personal thing for someone, right? What do you believe is good? What do you believe is bad? You ask a vegan, they will tell you that to eat animal that comes from a factory farm is bad because that animal endured a great deal of suffering during its life, and that suffering of that animal is not good for it's not good for it, and it's not good for you, because the suffering of a conscious being is not a good thing. But then someone else will say that they don't perceive that animal as having that level of awareness to know what it's going through, or others will say, oh, what can I do? Or some will seek like, okay, then I go for the cow that was raised in a pasture. But then, like, what is good and what is bad? Is it a good thing to kill a spinach plant so that I can eat it? For me, it's a good thing because it feeds me. For that plant, it lost its life,
Yeah. So
it's not a good thing. What is good and bad is a matter of perspective.
Exactly. It has sides, right?
It depends on, whose side you're on. And the ego is always on the side of me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
But the highest level of love and being is of giving, like self-sacrifice for the betterment of all. And so, yet they're like, if I am to make the world a better place, maybe I can do more to reduce the amount of pain and suffering in the world if I still feed myself, as opposed to if I try to save even the plants from suffering, then I will not be able to do so much because I will be stuck living on only fruit. And while I could do that,
Are you vegan?
I am.
Nice.
But see, there are people who take it to the extreme. They only eat fruit. They don't even eat like lettuce because the plant has to die for them to eat it. And so they'll only eat the fruits that are given from the plants.
But also, there's a lot of saying that we really need meat or something like this. So I also heard about a news which is a guy, vegan guy, died from eating only fruit. So what do you think about this? Are you sure that the fruits are really enough for us to live, or it's not? Are we doing this because we have to, or we just like to? What do you think?
I know many, many vegans that have been vegan for many, many years. I know a dozen vegans that have been 50 years, only plants, no meat, no eggs, no dairy,
Still,
healthy as an ox, just totally muscular, healthy, happy, no problems, no health issues whatsoever. It's a matter of a few things. And I don't know enough about the like only eating fruit diet. I know you can do this for several years. I've done it for a year myself and had no problems. But I know that it is a lot more difficult because of several problems we have now. One, monocrop farming on the same piece of land over and over. It is not a natural thing. The earth was never meant to be farmed in this manner. It depletes the soil of the essential micronutrients that your body needs. And then that same plant is grown with pesticides. And those pesticides stop the plant from needing to produce the amino acids in the roots, which act as a natural weed killer because we're spraying it with so much weed killer.
oh yes.
And then on top of that, we're spraying it with other insecticides, and those block your body's absorption of other essential nutrients and minerals. So you're being poisoned.
Yeah.
And
No, there's nothing that organic or natural or just helpful, right?
yeah, so that's the problem. Like this person, I don't know what they died of specifically, but it could be that their body there's many things that you can die from with a limited diet, and maybe that wasn't the cause of his death. Maybe it was a nutrient absorption issue or a lack of a certain nutrient, and they attribute it to his diet. But do we know if he had parasites? Do we know how much heavy metals were in his body? Do we know how much glyphosate was built up in his body, which is like the main pesticide that they use all around the world? This glyphosate, it's in Roundup. It was originally patented as a descaler for cleaning chimneys. It is completely toxic to the body. It also blocks your body's ability to absorb essential nutrients that you need, certain minerals and vitamins. It reduces your ability to integrate them into your cells.
Yeah.
And so because of this, there are things we need to do to make up for that. Mm-hmm. And a variety in your diet is necessary. If you eat only oranges for a year, you're going to die. But if you eat many, many different types of fruits, you can do this for a year and you will be just as healthy as you are now. In Ayurvedic medicine, which is the sister art of yoga, they have like the doshas and Pitta, Vata, Kapha, and they represent different types of body structure, different types of metabolism. And it's true, there are many different types of people, and that's why you should always listen to your body. Whatever you choose to do is your choice, because you are a free being, free to make your own choice. What I will say is, if your body is telling you that something is wrong, you should listen to it. Yeah. There's no excuse to die from a diet in this modern world. You can go get a blood test. They're not so expensive. It can tell you what you're lacking. If you
Just track yourself.
you can pay attention to your vitals, right? It's very easy. You sit there and feel your pulse. You can take your blood pressure. There's many things you can do. You can, ask your loved ones, how do I seem compared to a month back, 2 months ago? There's many things you can do to prevent such issues. And the thing I will say is, there's a lot of concern, like, as far as, especially like with even just a vegan diet, they say, oh, protein and this and that, and oh, tofu and estrogen. It's a phytoestrogen. It's not the same as what's in the body. There's plenty of vegan. If you actually I find that there are many cases in which anecdotal truth can be a lot more valuable than a scientific study, because there is many times in which a scientific study does not take into account all the variables because it's simply impossible to do so, as well as there's even been peer-reviewed papers that have been then later disproven. Because if there is sufficient funding, if there is a goal in mind, it is easy to make science appear a certain way. And the other side of it is doing the right thing. In our modern world, we have supplements. We have an abundance of tofu, which has almost all the proteins your body could need, as well as many minerals and things that you can eat. We have so many different options. And say you don't want to give up eating meat, you don't want to give up eggs, you don't want to give up dairy. Find a farmer, find someone who is raising this animal compassionately, because if you won't do it for the suffering animal, do it for yourself. When you're eating a animal that's grown in these factory farms, they're fed all these chemicals, all these antibiotics. Yeah. They are themselves depressed. Right. It goes into the biomemory of that meat. You're eating that. You wonder why you're depressed. You're eating depressed flesh of a depressed dead animal that died in fear and depression. And you're putting that in your body.
Directly flows into our body.
Yeah. On a physical level, there's measurable changes. On a spiritual level, there's energetic factors. There's so many levels to it. Find an animal that at least lived a happy life, and then its happy life was brought to a quick end. At least then what you're eating and putting in your body, what it ate throughout its life was healthy. The way it lived its life was in peace. Then you don't need to worry so much about what will happen if, like with dairy, it is a pretty well-known fact, and any amount of research should pretty much turn this up if you go to any academic source. Like, women who consume dairy, their chances of getting breast cancer exponentially higher than those who don't. And another thing is, like, a lot of the milk that we have nowadays, it's full of pus, mucus from the cows, because they're sick, they're not healthy, they're not happy, their bodies are inflamed, and that gets into the milk, which then is in the cheese. It's these things. So, and even like with eggs, I have nothing against eggs. I'll eat eggs if it's from a free chicken that's roaming around. But if that chicken is kept in this little shed with a bunch of chickens and it only has like a little bit of elbow room barely to walk around, it's being fed all these antibiotics. It's eating probably explicitly like corn and a very limited diet where it's not getting to eat the bugs and the grass and there's a lot of micronutrients you get foraging. Like even in the dirt, there's certain minerals, certain like vitamin B12, for example. Iron. There's a lot of things in a natural diet that you don't have from a diet where you're being fed all this just processed grain or corn, which is what they feed these factory animals.
What you eat, you become, right? Yeah. So, because our body is like motor and the food is fuel.
Yeah.
So, whatever you put, you will get this. So, if you eating fatty, not healthy, like fast food or something, and Coke all the time, beer, alcohol, then you don't wait from yourself too much, right? Because your body will be act like it because you're giving the wrong fuel. But how about eating good and healthy, the herbs that you grow in your own garden, that there's no chemicals you'll be sure of, which is you have chicken in your own garden, you eat that,
Yeah.
so you know what you eat. And as you can see, the village people are more happier than us. That's
Much
why.
happier.
That's why, because they know what they eat. They
Yeah.
just grow themselves. But here in cities, we don't know what we eat because all from the supermarkets, all from coming from the poisoned desert, desert, poisoned desert.
Yeah.
And it's not really good for our future, and really we poisoning ourselves. And that's why cancer is every time getting higher on the statistics. That's why.
It's true. It's true. The amount of toxins that they spray into the food is insane. And then that very toxically sprayed and processed food is being fed even then to those animals, and they're accumulating it. There's a reason that tuna is high in mercury. The longer an organism lives, the more its body accumulates toxins. So it's like these stages, right? You if you eat the primary stage, you get more energy too. It's why the the animal that eats the plants, it doesn't have to it's able to eat the plants, it gets the energy immediately. The animal that eats that has to eat more relatively. That's why you don't have as many predators as you have producers or animals that are the first level up. The second level up, the like carnivore only animals, there's a reason there's not so many of those, because it takes so much more energy to get energy from that, because you have like protein chains, right? In meat, it's an already assembled chain, but that chain is useless to you. The only thing you can make use of is each ring of that chain. So your body has to break it apart and then reassemble it into what works for itself. And as opposed to you eat the plant, you have all these individual chain links. Your body can just assemble it and it's good to go. And like you say, you grow your own food. That is absolutely the best, because then you're growing it, you're putting your intention into it, that you can give it gratitude, you can give it this thanks, you give it love, and this is good for it. There's a lot of really interesting things, like the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto. He's a Japanese scientist who took these like photographs of water crystals that were crystallized from water droplets after those water droplets have been exposed to emotions and words of either love and gratitude, or anger and like
really?
violence. And the water droplets that were given love form these beautiful snowflake patterns, and the water droplets that were yelled at and cussed out, they don't form snowflake patterns at all. And
So there's a form of energy that we're giving into them, and they really replies.
yeah,
They're really answering to that energy, right?
yeah,
That's cool. That's pretty nice.
yeah, it's interesting. And then water is a crystalline structure. Especially when frozen, it becomes a crystal. The thing about human DNA is it's also a crystalline structure, and also our bodies, mostly water.
Yeah.
The It's really interesting. There's a study they did in Russia where they give heartfelt emotion of gratitude and compassion to the DNA. They observe the DNA. It opens up and it's able to express itself, right? It's able to lead to healing the body. It's able to cellular replication. But then they expose that same DNA to anger, fear. It coils up. It no longer is expressing itself for the body to be able to heal, for the body to be able to regenerate and make new cells. So the mind and body are so deeply connected. We are a mind, body, and spirit complex. Everything that happens on the physical level will have an impact in the spiritual level. And everything that happens in the spiritual will have an impact on the physical. Everything that happens in the mental, same way. You have a thought, it leads to an action. You perceive something a certain way, there is chemical reaction. You experience something physical, it can also then cause reaction in the mind, and so forth into the spiritual realm. And so to take every thought captive, when you're driving down the road, someone cuts you off, you curse them out, but then you realize, oh, what have I done? I should be more aware, I should be more loving, and so I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to give them compassion. Maybe they're in a hurry, maybe they need to do something really important, maybe they didn't even realize they were cutting me off. Heck, I've cut someone off before because I was in a hurry or it was an accident and I didn't realize what I was doing, and I felt so bad when I accidentally did this, right? Maybe they feel bad too. Maybe they don't. Who knows? But why should I get upset and hurt myself with my anger? Why should I, make my DNA coil up tight rather than be in peace? Why should I express these negative emotions and feel them and have, I'm not saying to suppress the way you feel. Express it, but don't hold on to it. Let it flow through you. Don't attach to it. Let yourself move on. And so that you don't stay stuck in a record of the past, because your body can stay stuck in a record of the past for so long that you develop actual health issues. There's so many cases of this. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he is a epigenetics doctor, and he has so many case studies of this with people who have physical ailments that are caused by something that they haven't let go of on a mental level, and he helps them work through it to release it on a mental level, and the physical ailment goes away, is cured. So it's all connected. The body, the external world, the mental world, all these things, all these levels of, all these different types of truth, these different teachings, that there's a deeper connection between them all. But to get to the deepest level of truth, to get to the core, the thing that connects all these things, requires, I think, exploring each path, gaining an understanding of each of these things. Just in this conversation, we've talked about death, we've talked about life, we've talked about health.
Yeah.
We've talked about how to live a good life.
Yeah.
Not just for oneself, how to live a good life in the world, but then how to, what is eating healthy? What is being kind? What is, the point of life?
Yeah.
You've asked, truth. What is it is it on an individual level? What is truly important? And I think that the pursuit of such is to be on the right path, even if you don't have all the answers. And then there's a lot of people, you can tell them a lot of great things and they say no, that's really nice, and in the mind that's really nice, but when I am in pain, how does it help me, right? And that is something that is on an innately personal level, because you need to enter deep within yourself and ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Not just tuning it out. We constantly ignore our internal world and seek distraction in the external world. And we don't ever sit with ourselves. And we don't really contemplate, what is going on inside? Why do I feel this way? We can have a whole event happen to us, a trauma, right? Yeah. That we hold on to for our whole life. And every time something reminds us of that trauma, we go right back to experiencing the same feeling that we had during that trauma. And that feeling triggers the same way of thinking. And that way of thinking triggers more of the same emotions. And this thought loop, this pattern in your consciousness repeats itself because you've never healed from it, because you've never sat with it. You've never fully gone into that memory and relived it as if you were that past version of yourself. Like, say something happened to you when you were 7 years old. You go back, you relive that event. You don't relive it as you now, but you relive it as 7-year-old you, from that level of understanding of the world, from that level of emotion that you felt then, and you experience it fully through from start to finish. And you repeat this process maybe 5 times. And once you've done this, now you shift your perspective, and then you experience it again, but as if you're an outside observer seeing it happen, as you would when you're remembering it, sort of. But you're there, you're watching it happen to yourself. You see, and you realize that in that moment, you were only doing your best. We are always only doing our best from our current level of consciousness. And if you want to live a good life, always do your best. Always be impeccable with your word. Do not sin against yourself with your word. And to that extent, do not sin against others with your word. Don't make assumptions and don't make judgments, because it's very easy to assume, it's very easy to judge, but very seldom do you turn out to be right in those assumptions or those judgments. And every time you are wrong, you get hurt or someone else gets hurt. So
Watch out what you say.
watch out what you say, watch out, what you do. All action starts as a thought. Most thoughts start as an emotion. Or a thought will cause an emotion, which will lead to an action. But thought and emotion come first. So if you can hold the light of awareness on that, you will find that you are able to work on yourself, to improve, to be the highest, best version of yourself. If you have an addiction you want to stop, say you like to smoke cigarettes, if you hold the light of your awareness the whole time while you're smoking your cigarette, you don't stop yourself, right? You don't try to just, I'm just going to cold turkey it. I mean, but you know it's not good for you. You know it can cause lung cancer. You know it can, rot your teeth and it can give you throat cancer and whatever. You know it's not good for you, right? You know all these things that are why it's so bad. But you don't stop, because you have this like karmic attraction to this experience. And so holding the light of your awareness on it will allow you to experience the experience. You still allow yourself to feel the joy of the head rush, all this, right? But with your awareness on what you're truly doing, holding that awareness, 5 minutes after, 10 minutes after, you remind yourself, you remember, you think about it, you go, oh, right. So you don't judge yourself. You don't criticize yourself. You just have awareness, and you acknowledge that it's a choice that you're making and that you are free to make that choice. You're also free to make any other choice, because everything you do is something that you choose to do, or it's a reaction that you did not choose because you were playing out a pattern that's ingrained in your consciousness. And when you catch that happening, you must realize that that's what you're doing if you're capable. Maybe it's an hour later, maybe it's the next day, but as soon as you realize that you have acted unconsciously and played out a pattern, reacted in a way, you're like, oh, that wasn't me. I would have, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to speak to you that way. I did not mean to do that thing. Try to relive the event. Go back to the moment that before you acted. Here, live it, not just remember it, but live it, feel it, experience it. What did they say that triggered you to act that way or triggered you to say that thing? And when they said that, what feeling came up in you, or what thought came up in you? And if it was a feeling first, what thought did that feeling trigger? If it was a thought, what feeling did that thought trigger? Feel it, think it, feel it, think it, repeat that process, go through the event, experience it again, and try to become aware. Like, okay, they did this and it made me feel such a way. So then I reacted in such a way. You'll realize there was a time earlier in your life where you reacted the same way to a similar stimulus.
Exactly.
And you can trace it back as you relive that past event. You can trace it back to the first time this happened. And it'll be sometime in your childhood where you first felt powerless, where you first felt not good enough or not worthy of love. And you told yourself these things. And you'll realize that when you relive these things and you go back and you give yourself compassion, you tell yourself, I am worthy of love. I do have the power to react consciously now, to choose what I do, to choose what happens to me.
I do deserve respect.
I do deserve respect. Right. It's important, to tell yourself these things, to get it in your own mind, in your own heart, that, I love myself, I trust myself, I value myself, I honor myself. Because through a deeper level of self-love, you will be able to be more loving to your fellow humans, to your fellow animals, to your fellow trees, to your fellow earth. But you can only become this higher level of loving towards others through developing a level of self-love, through deepening your level of self-love. And there are many people, they say like, oh, I don't love myself at all. But like, I know a vegan, she says, she loves the animals. She has so much compassion for the animals. She helps and saves hundreds of stray dogs, saves their lives, feeds them, takes care of them if they need it in their health. But then she says she has no love for herself. And then that lack of love for herself expresses itself in her relationships with her loved ones, with her friends, with her family. And yeah, she's able to channel this compassion and this love for these animals. Likewise, I know people, they say, oh, I love my partner, but I don't love myself. It's like, okay, maybe you do, but the degree that you lack that self-love will directly impact the degree to which you are capable of truly and authentically expressing the depth of love that you are truly capable of. If you're one of those people who say, I don't love myself, but I love, my loved one, I love whatever. Just imagine if you could give that same level of love, compassion, acceptance, understanding to yourself that you give to them. If you can love your child, why can you not love yourself? If you can love another, if you can love another being, why can you not love yourself that same? Give yourself that compassion. Give yourself, dig into that, sit with that, contemplate that, find out what happened to you that led you to feel that way. And then give yourself compassion and give yourself understanding, because it's like a baby in the mother's womb, right? Is enveloped in this love, is provided for the necessities that it needs. And you're then born into life where you feel now separated from your source. It's interesting how the birth trauma is so similar to, and one with the concepts that they give in like spiritual teachings of like, we are one with God, one with the universe, but then, we're born into this body, we incarnate in this form, and now we feel separate from everything. We feel separate from each other. We feel separate from the world. And so now you can have fear because you feel like you are separate from the world, then the world could be hostile to you. You are not provided for if you are so separate, right? But if you are one with the universe, then of course the universe is going to provide you, as you would provide yourself, that love, that whatever you need. And it's powerful how your perception of reality can and will directly impact your life's experience more than just the way they describe it in Stoicism. There is an energetic, a physical way they call like the law of attraction, right? Your perception of reality, what you believe, will directly impact what you experience, as well as what comes to you in life. And there's many ways to explain that. Maybe it's purely material. Maybe it's just, now you're looking for it because you're in that mood of like feeling like, okay, life will provide me what I need. And then you're more open to noticing the opportunity. Or maybe that opportunity only came because you believed it. There's no way to really know. But throughout life, we have these coincidences. But they're so numerous and so common that it gets this term, oh, it's a coincidence, right? No, it's a coincidence. It is a happening that is one with, there is nothing separate. Everything that you experience in your life is a direct reflection of something within you. And there is a degree to which, of course, the world we live is a collective dream that, so whatever's in my mind, especially like while we're in the same room, will directly impact our shared experience of reality right now. And of course, like same with, all these strangers and stuff. And if you go off alone into the woods, you could say, okay, why can't I walk through this tree if I really believe it? But do you really believe it? No, you don't really believe it because you've never experienced it. And every time you've ever tried, it's never worked. So of course you can't actually believe that, because belief on the degree of true faith is what is required when we see these things that are called miracles. And yet there are so many miracles that several are like documented and nearly undeniable. Like the amount of like anecdotal evidence, the amount of like, people that saw a thing happen, or the experiences like are so numerous. I know so many people, they've had these experiences, there's no way to explain. And, these things, they happen in spaces where the true conviction of the heart, there's an absolute faith, a belief, on the level of a knowing that something is possible. It makes that thing much more possible. And so that is where you bridge the gap between science and spiritual. But yet, the science, they say, the most fundamental particles that make up even the electron, right? They now model them, and the models are these sacred geometric structures that can all be traced to the flower of life. All sacred geometric patterns can be traced to the flower of life. And through the flower of life, we get Metatron's cube, which gives us all of the solids, all of the Newtonian shapes, as well as all of the elements, including ether, as well as all known octaves for music that are harmonious, as well as like the Fibonacci sequence, the phi ratio, all of these things all of geometry, the entire universe, all of math can be derived from this one pattern that is a sacred geometric pattern. There is so much more depth to this world than the surface that most people sit at. And so it is my deepest passion in life to pursue these truths. And I absolutely love sharing them with others. And so I do. I thank you for this opportunity.
No, I thank you, really. Exactly. I appreciate you that you accept joining my content, explaining yourself, telling the things that you believe in with open mind, And I'm happy that I just find that hidden gem in his mind. I couldn't let him just live in a life in somewhere else. I just came here, I heard him and said, yes, that's the guy. I want to speak with him because he's really so deep and he has really so great thoughts for the world that can change us and that can we all need to have. So I really thank you for joining me, and it was really great conversation with you, and I really enjoy it. I would like to make it longer, but I think this is already my longest video.
Yeah.
And I don't think I will edit or cut it. I think directly upload it, because this is the organic way, and maybe you can feel also you are speaking with us too. And yes, hope you guys enjoy it. Devin here, and it's Recep here. If you like the content, we will continue. Even maybe we can make it online, like maybe Zoom, right? Can we do it?
Yeah.
If you like it, guys, just comment down below, and maybe we can start a podcast or something from Spotify, right? And then we can create a community with that. If you want to join to that podcast too, if we created it, exactly, just comment down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe. And I will leave Devin's Instagram also. You can follow him, and you can ask him if you want to ask something, because he's really deep guy that you can learn from. So that's all from us. Without further ado, peace.
Peace and love.
Amazing. That was perfect.
That was amazing. I did not want to disturb you. That was
It
great.
was perfect. You could join too.